I bought my cabin to get away from people like her, HOA Karen, as the neighbors called her. The type of person who thinks their clipboard gives them authority over the world. She wasn't officially the HOA president, but she ran the neighborhood like her personal fiefdom, barking orders, writing fines, and snooping where she didn't belong. The cabin wasn't even part of their HOA. That's what made this whole story so ridiculous. I'm Mark, 42, a former SWAT team leader turned security consultant. After 20 years on the force, I'd saved enough to buy a small, peaceful cabin by the lake, a secluded spot where I could fish, train, and enjoy some silence. The cabin sat just outside the Lake Pine Estates HOA boundary. The HOA maintained the private road that led to the lake, but my property was technically independent, listed as non-member private land since 1979. Still, that didn't stop HOA Karen. The violation letter. About 2 months after moving in, I got my first taste of her nonsense. A bright orange envelope was taped to my gate, stamped, HOA compliance notice. Greater than, unapproved exterior modifications, it read. Failure to maintain property appearance consistent with community standards. Immediate remediation required. I nearly laughed. The modifications were my solar panels and my steel security gate, both installed before I even bought the place. I drove over to the HOA office, a prefab building near the subdivision entrance. Inside, I found Karen, mid-50s, platinum blonde hair, oversized sunglasses perched on her head, wearing a blouse that screamed, corporate boss, even though this was a volunteer gig. Can I help you? She asked without looking up. Yes, I said, setting the notice on her desk. You put this on my gate. That property isn't under your HOA. She glanced at the paper, then at me, pursing her lips. All homes that use the Lake Pine access road are subject to HOA guidelines. Not mine, I replied evenly. Check the county plat maps. She scoffed. We'll see about that, and that's when I knew, this woman was going to be trouble. The harassment escalates. Over the next few weeks, she escalated. First, she sent me reminder notices about landscaping and non-compliant fencing. Then, I found one of her so-called inspectors parked on the shoulder outside my gate, taking pictures. When I confronted him, he mumbled something about documenting potential violations and sped off. I sent a cease and desist letter through my attorney. Karen ignored it. Then came the final straw. I came home one afternoon to find my padlock cut open, a brand new master lock, snapped clean through. The gate hung open slightly, and I could see tire tracks in the dirt driveway leading up to my cabin. Someone had been inside, and I already knew who. The setup. I checked my security cameras. Sure enough, footage from earlier that morning showed Karen and 2 men in safety vests marching up the driveway, clipboard in hand. They peered in my windows, walked around my deck, and even opened my tool shed. I could hear her voice on the recording, loud and entitled. Greater than, he can't just ignore HOA orders. This property is disgusting. I'm documenting everything. That was it. She had broken and entered. The sheriff's office confirmed what I already knew: trespassing, destruction of property, and possibly breaking and entering. They promised to send someone, but with limited rural patrols, I wasn't holding my breath. That's when I decided to handle it my own way. You see, while I might have retired from SWAT, my training facility, a converted portion of the cabin, was still operational. I occasionally hosted tactical training exercises for local law enforcement teams. And by sheer coincidence, or fate, the local sheriff's SWAT unit had scheduled a scenario training at my cabin that following Saturday. Perfect timing. Karen's inspection day. Saturday morning rolled around, crisp air and the smell of pine in the wind. Inside the cabin, the SWAT guys were gearing up, training rifles, body armor, comms. We were about to run a hostage extraction drill. Then, like clockwork, my motion alert pinged. Someone was approaching the gate. I checked the feed. There she was, Karen again, this time with the same 2 inspectors. Only now, she carried a bolt cutter. Unbelievable, muttered Deputy Harris, one of the SWAT team members. I nodded. Guess she didn't get the message. We watched as she snapped the padlock, again, and pushed through the gate. She gestured dramatically at my cameras. Greater than, he can't record us. HOA inspections are mandatory. They trudged up the gravel path, talking loudly about noncompliance and community standards. The SWAT guys were half laughing, half incredulous. Mark, what do you want to do? Harris asked. Nothing yet, I said, smiling. Let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes. The confrontation. Karen reached the porch and knocked on my cabin door, 3 sharp raps. Mr. Lawson, she shouted. This is the Homeowners Association. We're conducting a compliance inspection. I stayed silent. She turned to one of her inspectors. Take pictures of everything. The gate, the windows, the solar panels. I want evidence. They started walking around my deck. That's when the door swung open. And out stepped 8 men in tactical gear, rifles up, helmets gleaming, black vests marked, Sheriff SWAT. Karen froze. Hands where we can see them, barked Harris, his voice booming. The inspectors dropped their cameras immediately, stammering apologies. Karen, on the other hand, puffed herself up indignantly. This is harassment. I'm conducting an official inspection. Harris lowered his rifle slightly, recognizing the absurdity. Ma'am, you just committed breaking and entering on a private property. I most certainly did not. This cabin is under HOA jurisdiction. That's when I stepped out from behind the SWAT truck, arms crossed. Karen, I said calmly, we've been over this. You don't own this land. You're trespassing. Her jaw dropped as she realized who I was addressing her from behind the tactical team. You set this up. She accused. No, I replied, you walked straight into it. The fallout. The deputies took statements, confirmed the footage, and within an hour, Karen was in the back of a patrol car, still ranting about illegal military exercises and citizens' rights. The 2 inspectors admitted she'd forced them to come along, threatening to fine them for non-participation. They got off with warnings. Karen, however, faced trespassing, vandalism, and property damage charges. But the best part came a week later. Turns out, the Lake Pine HOA's liability insurance didn't cover unauthorized actions by board members. The entire HOA board had to call an emergency meeting to vote her out and negotiate a settlement with me for the damage. They paid for new locks, a reinforced gate, and my attorney fees. And Karen, she got banned from holding any HOA position in the county. Epilogue. The knock at my door. 3 months later, I was sitting on my porch one evening when I heard a vehicle pull up. A county SUV. Out stepped Sheriff Nolan, an old colleague of mine. Mark, he said, grinning, got a letter for you. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten apology, signed by Karen herself. Court ordered, of course. Greater than, I, Karen Wilcox, apologize for my actions and acknowledge that Mr. Lawson's property lies outside HOA jurisdiction. I will refrain from further contact. I chuckled and handed the letter back. Guess she finally read the plat map. The sheriff laughed. Word around town as she moved out of Lake Pine. Bought a condo in the city. Poor city, I muttered. We sat for a while, watching the sunset over the lake. The water shimmered orange and gold, the woods quiet except for crickets. For the first time since I bought the cabin, I finally felt peace. But the story didn't quite end there. A few months later, I got a call from an HOA lawyer, not from Lake Pine, but from a nearby development, Evergreen Bluffs. Apparently, Karen had joined their civic committee and was already stirring trouble. The lawyer wanted a character reference, someone who could verify her history. I laughed for a solid minute before composing myself. Oh, I can verify plenty, I said. But you might not like what you hear. Karen's last mistake. About 6 months after that, my friend Harris called. You won't believe this, he said. Remember Karen? How could I forget? She tried to cite a county fire marshal for parking an inspection truck on a non-compliant grass surface. He gave her a ticket for obstruction. I nearly spit out my coffee. Apparently, she'd also been banned from 2 Facebook neighborhood groups for aggressive behavior. By then, her reputation had spread across the entire county. Realtors whispered warnings about her to potential homebuyers. One local paper even ran a humor column called, Tales from the HOA, the legend of Karen. She'd become an urban legend of sorts, the overzealous HOA enforcer who got taken down by a SWAT team. Back at the cabin, I didn't see her again after that. Life at the lake returned to quiet normalcy. The woods reclaimed the edges of my driveway. Deer came out at dawn again. Sometimes, when I sip my coffee on the porch, I glance at the repaired gate and the new heavy-duty lock. A reminder that peace needs protecting. My neighbors, those not part of the HOA, still laugh about the incident. They even printed a small wooden sign for my fence. Greater than, SWAT training area, HOA trespassers will be educated. It's half joke, half warning. Every now and then, a delivery driver or camper asks about the story, and I tell them the short version. Greater than, and HOA lady thought she ran the world. Turns out, she walked into a SWAT drill instead. They always laugh, shaking their heads. And I always smile, because for me, it wasn't just about revenge, it was about boundaries. People like Karen don't understand that ownership doesn't mean authority. You can't bully your way onto someone's land, no matter how many bylaws you print or committees you form. The woods, the water, the quiet, they belong to those who respect them. Not to those who crave control. The moral, in the end.